I'll be talking about DxO software, X-Rite, for the next few minutes. Here we go. So a little bit about me. I've been a photographer for around 20 years as a professional. I've been a photographer for a lot longer than that. I shoot fashion, I shoot weddings. Weddings are a sort of great way to pay for the house, pay for the shopping, bring up the children, pay for the children, everything. And I also photograph anything that I find interesting. So I may go and photograph some food, I may photograph a couple of landscapes, that type of thing. I'm primarily a Nikon user. Sorry to all the Canon users. From my point of view, I think Nikon and Canon are fantastic, both of them. It's just the first one you buy, I think. So, you know, they're both amazing cameras. I'm fortunate to be sponsored by Elinchrom, the lighting company, and I use primarily all of their lighting equipment and products. I use Lasterlight products, reflectors, as I think pretty much everybody in the world does. They've been around for a long time, fantastic company. I've recently been made the UK ambassador for Cactus speed lights, which if you go onto the web and just go to cactus-image, you'll see all their products. They're growing rapidly as a company. I use Wacom, which I've used for many years, X-Rite and Datacolor. We won't talk about that one, we'll talk about X-Rite. You can look at my websites. I have a training website, marklawrencetraining.co.uk. I also have marklawrencephotography.co.uk. And you can email me on anything you see on the screen there, mark@marklawrencetraining or info@marklawrencephotography.co.uk. and Twitter @MTLphotography. I love Twitter. Great little piece of software, great little app. So, equipment. I use an Apple computer built by a company in London called Create.pro, and it has, as you can see on the screens there, 3.466 core Intel, 64 gigs of RAM, an NVIDIA graphics card. I use an NEC SpectraView 271. I have a couple of these monitors, and the computer, yes, it's quick compared to most. It's very fast with that amount of RAM and that processing on board. I wanted to buy the new Apple Mac Pro, the wine cooler, or trash can as it's been sort of nicknamed and things like that, but this computer was about a third of the price that would have equated to the Apple computer. So get in touch with Create.pro, great company. Software. Obviously, I use DxO OpticsPro 10. I have used DxO for a number of years now, and I've seen them grow, and I've seen the software grow, and I've seen all the work that they do on using their lenses and the way that they attach their lenses to the software, and I really don't know how they do that. I just think it's absolutely amazing what they do. I use Adobe Creative Cloud. I'm part of a group in the UK, which is the Adobe Creative Professional Group. Lightroom, which I use. I did used to use Aperture, but now they've stopped development on that. I took the plunge and moved over to Lightroom. I use a piece of software called Time Exposure, or actually it's called ProSelect, from a company called Time Exposure, for all my presentations to my clients. And I use many other little pieces of software, which I think we all do now. You know, software has sort of started to rule our lives, but I tend to use them just as a tool and just look at it as a tool, not something that I want to spend 20 hours in front of the computer trying to work out every part of the software. You know, if we're using, as they say with Photoshop, you know, there's 5 or 6 different ways to do everything, to do the same thing in Photoshop. I just like to stick to one and get to know it well. X-Rite, and we can have a little bit of a discussion on this one. I use the i1 Display Pro because it does a couple of monitors, does all my monitors for me. I've used the i1 Display Pro for probably about 3 or 4 years, ever since I saw one being demonstrated at a trade fair and thought, yep, I like that one, that looks pretty good. I've got that one. I do calibrate every week. I have a little reminder that pops up every week for me. It's just, usually on a Friday morning, so that I can see everything when if I'm shooting a wedding over the weekend, everything's coming back in the right colours, or I can see everything in the right colour. My room is reasonably dark, and I have daylight on one side which is blocked out. So I just try to keep the light around the monitor as consistent as possible. What we do, as I say in the presentation here, is completely color critical. I don't know how many people out there shoot weddings. I know that the number has grown over many, many years, and perhaps people would like to just send in a little question or something, say, weddings, yes, just so that I've got an idea of how many people can shoot or out there shooting weddings. I used a little passport system from X-Rite, which is, because it's so small, it fits into my inside pocket of my suit when I'm working at weddings, and I will usually take 2 or 3 shots of this, one in the room where the bride is getting ready, one in either the church or the ceremony room, and then one when we get outside, and I'll sort of look at those and create profiles for those and just block the images and then apply that profile to those images within that group, if you like. It does take a little bit more time, and I think taking that little bit more time just makes the difference for me. You've got advanced and basic menus. I do only use the basic menus for things, because I think with the software companies, including DxO, any software company you deal with, they will provide a basic menu that pretty much covers what we need. They've spoken to photographers, they've looked at different things, so the basic menus are pretty much all we need. It really helps the passport system when I'm using assistants who have a different camera system. That really makes a difference, because just a quick break off from that, I had a guy, a wedding album company, contact me and ask me if I could talk to a guy who was having problems with the color in his wedding albums, and they sent me one of the albums and the pictures were different all over the place, and I asked him, basically I gave him a call and said, what cameras are you using? And he said, well, I'm using a Fuji X Pro 1, I'm using a Nikon D3 and a Canon X whatever it was on there. And I said, well, you're expecting the same color from every camera? And he said, they're just JPEGs, aren't they? They should all be the same. So I can probably hear some of you giggling over that one, having a little laugh over that. But I showed him how to use the passport system, and he's getting on happily with everything. If you want to see the X-Rite products, go to the website on there, which is xritephoto.eu.com. Contact your local dealer for anything. The same as with the DxO software, contact a dealer or go onto the DxO site. The one thing that I really can't wait for with DxO, and I'm thinking I'm seeing one tomorrow, is the DxO One, which is the camera, which is apparently absolutely amazing. I've looked at the DxO webpage and seen it on there and seen what it can do. I think that's going to be a real breakthrough for people, and I can't wait until tomorrow to get my hands on one. Unfortunately, I'll probably have to give it back. So let's move on. So that's the end of the presentation. We'll shut the presentation down. I'm going to go into, I'm going to show you 2 different ways this evening. I'm going to show you working with Lightroom, going into the DxO software, and I'm going to show you the DxO software just on its own as a standalone program. So bringing images in, changing images. I have sort of made up some folders of images. Obviously that's going to make it a little bit easier for me. I hope that you'll be able to see the detail of things on your screen. I have changed my resolution on my screen, and I really do hope that you can see it on yours. So we'll go into Lightroom first, and and it will just boot up. Take a couple of seconds to boot up. This computer is very, very fast. They actually do a 12-core version, but that was a little bit out of my budget. So all I've done here, this is all of my work. I'm not sure, I've not sort of ganged anything up together. I've got a little DxO webinar folder down the bottom here, which I've got some images in, which I'm going to sort of play with you, if you like. So in Lightroom, you know, I would take just an image. I have an image here which is backlit. This was on a demonstration of some Elinchrom lighting, how to get some rim lighting and throwing a light in behind somebody. And I'm just going to hide a panel on my screen here. And I'm going to take this into develop, where I can change a couple of things if I want to. I can change my, obviously I think we all know Lightroom. I'm hoping we do. I'm making a lot of guesses here that people are using Lightroom out there, but what I want to do with this is I want to take this into the DxO software and then bring it, do some processing. Just had somebody come through on my head, and then take it back again. So in Lightroom, I'm just going to go to Plugin Extras, transfer to DxO OpticsPro 10. And the image pops up here. I need to rotate the image. The image has gone completely around the wrong way for me, but we'll just pop this, rotate it around this way for me. And we're getting a loading error. I have no idea what that is. So let's have a look. And we'll just move the window over a little bit. We've got some presets here that we can use. If you do use the DxO software and you haven't used these little presets down here, please just take an image into the system and try one of the little presets that you have here. So you've got portrait standard. I don't know why this is actually coming up with loading error. We'll go back and get a different image, I think. So we'll just flick back to Lightroom and we'll get, let's get this image here. You'll understand, this image is interesting. So we will transfer to DxO. Okay. Now, one of the things with this image, I've got this portrait black and white going on here. One of the things I wanted to do with this image when I saw it was crop it, because if you look down here, she was a beautiful girl, a great model on the day, but unfortunately had the world's worst hands. I thought she was going to spear me with them at one point. So I would just go into here and just go into my crop area, and let's go for a manual crop on here, get our cropping tool and just bring this in, move it over slightly. Let's just have like almost like a head and shoulders shot from this on our crop and hit go. One of my favorite buttons, and you'll see me using this pretty much predominantly during this demonstration, is volume deformation. Now, you know, I'm going blind here. I don't know how many people have seen this software, how many people have used the DxO, how many people have got into the DxO software. But volume deformation, if you're shooting portraits or if you're shooting weddings and you come up against that, you're using a wide angle. Using a wide angle for a group, and you know, the people on the end, unfortunately, will look like, you know, muscle bound. They'll be a little bit wide, or you get a group and you're doing wide angle, they'll always look a little bit wider. Volume deformation corrects that for you. If you go onto the DxO site and look at the samples they have there, they have some really, really good samples of how to use the volume deformation. Fortunately, I've learned my lesson over the years and tend not to use wide-angle lenses for most things. But if I click on my volume deformation, they have two here. They have a diagonal and they have a horizontal and vertical. I switch between the two to see whichever one really suits the picture. And so if I click this on, you see it's just moved. So if I do a compare on there, we've got the original, which was in color there. And if you look at her head here, it looks like it's on the new one with the volume deformation. It looks like it sort of pulled it forward slightly. It doesn't look as though she's leaning back so much. That might just be my eyes, I don't know, but I love using that little piece of that little button there on the right hand side, because it just helps me to pull pictures forward. So once I've worked with something like this, I might, I'll muck around with exposure, and really when I'm saying muck around with things, I really do try and experiment on different things. I'll hit my contrast. Obviously I'm going to push my contrast up if I'm working in black and white. I do like black and white. I'm not a lover of grayish, 18% or whatever it is, grey and so forth. I'm really not a lover of that. I do get in trouble sometimes with people when they say, oh no, that's a little bit too black and white, Mark, I don't like it. And another little button down here that we use, clear view. Now on all of these menus with DxO software, this must take them forever to do this and to write this, and I don't know how they do it. They're an amazing company to work with. They just, everything keeps coming out, and they're amazing. You've got a little button here, and it just explains everything about the clear view process. So, when you get that haze or that little fog that's across the screen, sometimes you might get a little bit of light just pushing through on there. This clear view really helps to take that away. It works beautifully. I'm going to show you that on some other images. I'm going to click it on. It's just sort of darkened that down. It's taken that light, that bright light. If I click it off again, there you go, and then hit it again, it's just toning down in these grey areas. It's just brought that down for us. So now I can send that back to Lightroom if I wish. I don't really need to. So I can just go back into Lightroom, and we'll go and select another image. This is an interesting image. This is shot in a church. I can't show you the front of this guy on here because he's an army officer, and they've allowed me to use this picture, but we can't do anything where we can see his face, unfortunately, due to our sort of laws over here. So as you can see, one of the things I would do in here first of all is to start looking at the white balance. This says as shot in Lightroom. I quite like it like that. It's okay as it is, but there's a couple of little bits I want to do. I want to get the volume deformation up on this. I might straighten these lines up. So again, we'll go from here and take it into DxO software. So the DxO software has already laid a bit of a correction on there for me, as you can see, which I quite like. It's brighter. These pillars were quite a lot lighter than the ones on the left-hand side here, left-hand side of my screen. And, we've got a little bit of, it's not quite in line there. Perhaps I wasn't standing quite straight. I'm going to take it off of that so we can see this image. One little button that I don't know if anybody here is absolutely amazing at getting everything level. I know I'm not, as you can see on this. I just want to get the picture. Then I will start to work on it. Now I've got a horizon tool here, which is just here, and if I go and grab one of these buttons here and pull it across to this button, there we go. It's straightened it up for me. So that's a little bit more level, and we'll apply that. So I might crop this one out now so that I've got this straight line at the bottom here, but I'll maybe do that afterwards. But if we look at this, I've got the noise reduction already switched on. I'm going to enlarge up a little bit. This was taken, I think, with a 50mm lens from some distance away, and I haven't got this on the resolution that I would like on my screen, so it may look a little bit soft. Trust me, it's not. I wouldn't use it if it was. But if I take the noise reduction off, you can start to see, or I can start to see some artifacts in here. I'm going to open up noise reduction, and if I switch it on, okay, we've got the normal high quality noise reduction, which we've got the luminance here, which will reduce or the fine grain in the image. If we push that up, we've got the chrominance, which will top any color artifacts. But again, you've got this little button up here, which will explain everything to you. It's one of these pieces of software where you need to play with it. There are so many menus. If you look at the top of the screen here, just briefly, I've got my one here called Mark's Palette. I've made my own palette from the drop-down list, which is here. As you can see, there are a few items you can have in your palette. But if I go back down to this noise reduction, you have high quality and you have prime. Prime really is, if you're going to do this on a laptop, go and make yourself some coffee, some tea, maybe have a sandwich, because unless you've got a very fast computer, the prime will take a little bit of time to process the image, but it's well worth the wait. Fortunately, this, as I said, this computer is reasonably fast, so I'm going to click the prime, and it's, as you can see, it's working down here, and it's finished. Now, if I zoom in even more, well, that's probably a bit too much. This is where the noise is, in the blacks and on the skin tones as well. But if I just go to high quality, the noise is greater in here. Click to the prime, and you start to lose some of that in here. You can also push this luminance. There you go, you can see that working. If I take that down, the little wheel is working. Yeah, you can see it's all grown in here again. If I push this up, let's get up to 70 or 80. There we go. You see it disappear. And then when you come out to the main image itself, and see the image, it just makes so much difference. I will crop this because, as you can see, it's sort of where we've straightened it up. You've obviously, when you straighten something up, you're going to lose areas in corners and things on there. But this is straightening up. In a normal wedding edit, I would take that microphone out, pop into Photoshop, take that out. I don't really need to straighten these pillars. I think that looks pretty cool up there. So this church, actually, this bit was where the choir was sitting. Where I was standing here, behind me to the right and the left, this church can hold 1,000 people. It's on a military base. So, right, okay, so we've gone through there. I'm not going to, again, I'm not going to bother to save it back. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to go and sort of quit from Lightroom. We don't need Lightroom. You will see that there's a color difference between this one and the one that we've just seen in the software. The reason for this is that DxO and Adobe use two different processing engines for this. When I go into DxO software, as you would have seen on the right, most of my menus are turned off. I want a flat picture. And Lightroom, Photoshop, all of them have their own little color artifacts that they put on. DxO doesn't. DxO will show you a flat image, pretty much as it's come out of the camera. Hopefully, you know, the word flat is probably not the right image. We don't like to see a flat image, but it's showing you a normal image, how it came out of the camera. Okay, so I'm actually going to quit out of Lightroom, and we'll skip the backup this time, and I've got DxO in here. Now, what I'm going to do with DxO, you have two buttons up here. You have Customize and you have Organize. Organize is pretty much just like your library in Lightroom. You can go and see anything on your hard drives, wherever you are, whatever you want to do. So if I click the Organize button here, I've got all these little projects that I've been working on. These were the demo ones. And I can see all of my hard drives. I can see everything in here. I can see all my network drives, everything. What I want to do here is I've got some wedding edits here. This was a crazy wedding. This bride was absolutely amazing. She was one of the happiest brides I've ever photographed in my life. It was just an amazing day. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to take this into Customize. I'm going to go into Customize with this library, and I've got everything here on my right hand side. I'm just going to push this in a little bit. We don't really need too much room there. So my white balance as shot, I quite like that color image as it is there. Exposure compensation, I'm going to push it because there's something I'm going to show you that I want to do. So I'm just going to push this sort of, I'm going to get a little bit brighter here. And I've kept the DxO smart lighting on, which is pretty much automatic for me. If I take that off, It's not really that much difference, but I'll leave it on because it does sort of light up some of the little areas that that we forget to do. Don't need the contrast. We'll try clear view. I don't think it's actually going to. No, there you go. It's just brought everything. It looks like it's more like a contrast button. I'm just going to take the intensity down a little bit. I did like what it did, but I just want to take that down. I didn't want too much of it. Okay, and I don't need the horizon. I've left the noise reduction on, but what I want to do here is I want to crop. So I want to go into my crop area, just go and grab my cropping tool. Poor old dad here, sorry fella, but I just want you to come out of that. I just want to really get a great little shot in there of the bride and her sister in the background and her bridesmaids in there, and just hit return. So that gives me a better shot in there, which I've got. So now I'm going to go in and just do a little bit of sharpening. Turn the unsharp mask on. Push it. There's a lot more you've got in the unsharp mask. I mean, I know Photoshop is absolutely amazing with its unsharp mask, and Photoshop is growing day by day, and I've used Photoshop for pretty much 15 to 20 years, ever since it first came out. I've still got a disk copy somewhere of version 2.01 of Photoshop. Doesn't work on anything, but it was on a 5 1/4 floppy disk. So I'm just going to muck around with my unsharp mask, take this back down again so I've got that, and then I'm going to go and change. I'm going to pop this into a bit of volume deformation. There we go. Let's pull it back up in front of us, and then I'm going to go over to my portraits over here, portrait and landscape, and I'm going to go into some black and whites. So with the preset editor, you can create a copy of what you've got. So if you have a black and white dense or structured, you can apply this and then take it off afterwards if you like. You see, that's the type of black and white that I really like. A lot of you will be going, oh no, I don't like that, oh no, but I like black and I like white, and I think it just, I like close cropping as well, taking out anything in the background. But you can go along to all of these and just say apply and try, that's a structured one going, obviously a contrast. Dramatic skies, I don't think that'd really work on here, but you can then copy these and create your own. So you can change them over here on your right hand side, change all of the editing parameters on that, and save it as another preset. So the beauty of having a preset is that if you're working on a wedding and you want all of the black and whites to be the same, if you want to pull them into DxO to do it, you can, and you've got a preset there that you like. So what that's going to do is to give you consistency across your black and whites within your wedding package or your wedding images. So rather than just sort of adjusting each one, you can just use the preset, just, select them and just pop the preset onto them. So that's an image that I'm going to keep there. We've got another one here from the same wedding, and you'll probably be saying, oh, there's blurs on there and things like that. I don't mind that. It's like when I photograph a first dance, I'll use D3, Nikon D3. I haven't promoted myself up to the D4s or D4Ss yet. I love my D3s and a D3X, but my D3, I'll bump that up to 6,400 ISO, and I'll shoot the first dance. And if there's some blur in it, that's fine. Dance is all about movement. People are moving around. They're not frozen by a flash head or by a speed light sitting on there, just frozen. Everybody just. It just doesn't do anything for me. I like some emotion, and I like a little bit of blurring. To be honest, a couple of parts of the picture, if I'm focusing on the bride and groom, they're going to be in focus, and they're going to be not only in focus, but going to be sharp or sharpish, and there might just be a little bit of blurring from her veil, down here, or jellyfish, as I like to call them in the trade. The groom always gets into trouble because he puts his arm around the bride, and inherently he's going to get into trouble. She'll say, you're pulling my hair, you're doing something. I think if you're wedding photographers out there, you've all heard that before. So I've got this dense black and white one here, which I really, really like. And I'm just going to apply it to this image as well, because I just think you can see it just pulls out everything here, and I want to leave this as it is in here. But what I might do, I might sharpen it a little bit just to give that sort of that edge detail, just to push it. You know, I don't follow in the footsteps of other photographers. There are some amazing photographers out there that that I really like to follow and to see what they're doing, but I don't copy them, although, you know, imitation is the sincerest form of flattery, imitation. So I tend to sort of do what I do, and I think that's where I get my business. I also get asked to do a lot of photographers' weddings. I have no idea why. The only thing I can put it down to is that I don't change anything that I do. Because they're a professional photographer, they're still a groom on the day or a bride on the day, and they're just getting married like anybody else, you know. So, but as you can see, just that dense black and white on here saves me so much time in Photoshop or Lightroom or any other program. I just love to use it. So if I go back to the organized area here, I just want to pull up a panel on here. I just wanted to see if there were any questions coming in. There we go. I think I've got somebody answering those for me anyway. So if I go to, we've looked at weddings. This actually, I'm going to do this one as well here, this image, because I did use a different camera on this one, and I got this sort of yellowy, casty, horrible thing on it. So that dense black and white there does that, and I'm just going to go up and pull my, if I could just move this over slightly, and pull my exposure down slightly. Here we go. There we go. Punch it in. That's it. Just pull that up slightly. This, by the way, was the bride and groom's little boy, who was amazing. Behaved himself all day long, unlike the young ladies behind who got rather drunk. But that's what weddings are for. You could crop this out and just make that a nice little panoramic. Let's go and have a look, shall we? Let's see what we can do on that. So we're just going to push that in there. So aspect ratio unconstrained, so that we can do this there and that there, and just push that up again a little bit there, and just say enter, and that'll give us a nice little panoramic of the boys. I love all these expressions on people's faces. I do tend to sometimes, when I'm shooting, shoot through groups to get somebody at the back. So these are all sort of a little bit softer focus at the front, and the guys at the back, especially if a bride and groom, I'm starting to slow down again now. If a bride and groom are standing at a church, and I can get round the front or somewhere to the front if the vicar will let me, and shoot through the bride and groom, either the mother of the bride or the father of the bride, close crop, you know, bride and groom slightly out of focus, usually a lot out of focus because they're using, I tend to use a 50mm lens, a 51.4, is it 51.2 in the churches. So we've got a nice little crop there. Here, this is the same bride, being a little bit more serious, and I think we'll use this one a little bit more serious. She loved everything that we did on the day. She was an amazing girl, and you know, I wish I had weddings like this every week. I'm going to use a little bit of clear view on here, just to, there we go, it just took some of that haze. This was in a, along the front here is the path going back to the hotel. I'm making hand signals here, nobody can see it, so sorry. Going back to the hotel entrance, and just this side of where I'm standing, I'm actually leaning on a gate and just taking some shots. So if I do this, and we can see the whole shot, I'm up on a gate. I'm up on a gate there. So I would push the sharpness a little bit on this, just to give me a little bit more sharpness. I won't vignette. I'm not a lover at all of vignettes. And what I'm going to do here, I'm going to muck around with a, do you know what? I'm not going to muck around with those. I'm not. This is the great thing about live broadcasts. That's why they say never work with animals and children on live television. I haven't done either, so it doesn't matter. So I'm going to leave that. I mean, this is the color that's coming through on here. The color in DxO is, I think it's the best out of Photoshop, DxO, Lightroom, Aperture, the natural color that comes through on the screen, because they analyze the lenses. They analyze those lenses, so all the lens aberration, everything like that is in the system. And I think that's what you've got to understand, is that all of that is in that system for you to use, and that the moment you use a lens that you haven't got in your system, as soon as the picture comes into DxO, a pop-up will appear and say, oh, you need the profile for this lens, download, and it takes 2 or 3 seconds and it's in your system. So all of your lenses are there, everything's there. You can go and try a different lens and take the picture and it'll download the profile for that lens. They are, they're a bit like my wife, I suppose. They think of everything. So it's just, you've got all of these tools here. If I shut down some of these, you can see, just how many menus there are on here. There are so many. If I collapse this menu, collapse the palette, there's so many menus. You can add so much to this, but you have to think about what you're using. If you're not using something, take it away. Take it away in there. Don't use it at all. So I'm going to go back to my organize here, and I'm going to look at have we got one for the ladies? If there's any ladies out there, I don't know. Ladies, I'm not being sexist, anything really. This is a friend of mine, actually. He's my golfing partner, Paul, who works with me on some different shoots and so forth. He is about 2 meters, or just under 2 meters. I come up to probably just under his, actually by his shoulder. He's a colossal guy. It's a colossal guy, and we can use some of these dense landscapes on him, dense black and whites, which we'll take the exposure down slightly on that one, just to push, and we can get a real sort of character building on him. He is a big lad, but these black and white ones here, they make all the difference to your work, whatever you're doing. I'm going to shrink that down, and we've got the smart lighting on, and I'm going to go to do some selective tone. So we can start pulling and pushing highlights on here. So if I start taking down some highlights, it does put it a little bit grey, push those back up, push the midtones up, and shadows, push some shadows, take some shadows, there we go. Really start to, and push, blacks don't really need a great deal of pushing because I push the shadows, but we'll push the highlights up so we're getting this black and white again. So, it's making a real difference. We've got this half, white over this side, but with the shadows here. A little bit of room lighting behind his ear, which I don't think he really liked, but I might have taken that out in Photoshop. To move on to something like a fashion type image, if I go to this image here. So this was a young lady who I photographed many, many times. She's here and here and here, and I used these images here for a magazine. It was just about the dress, very sort of, they didn't want much of her face in it, which is a shame really, because if I show you another image of her, she's a beautiful girl. But what I'm going to do here is exposure compensation. I'm just going to push the exposure just a touch. All right. Now the smart lighting, if I change the smart lighting to strong, there we go, it gives me much more definition in here. Although I've pulled the exposure up, the smart lighting, you say, well, okay, you've got that brightness over that side, you've got the greys over this side. We're going to set your contrast for you. We're going to balance that out for you. I don't have to do it. The smart lighting is doing it for me. I can push the intensity if I really wish. on there and get that going. I'm going to zoom in a little bit on here so you can see exactly what's happening. We'll pull this down. Here we go. So Tara, her name is Tara. I'm not going to go with selective tone. Actually, I might just add in some of the highlights on this because I want the dress and some of this area to come up slightly. So we'll push those slightly for us. And then we'll also go to contrast. Now, with contrast, the micro contrast on this will really sort of start to work into her face for me. We're going to go to double here. So if I move these over like this, you're already seeing the differences. A bit darker there, a bit lighter there. We're seeing more of her eye in here. I'm going to put the clear view on. All right, that gives us even more definition out of the background. But the clear view, I'm just going to take the intensity down slightly on there. I'm actually going to push this as far as I want to go. There we go. All right, and we should have noise reduction is on there as well. And if I go to prime, okay, prime's finished. We'll zoom out on these images. There is a vast difference between these two. There's definition down the edges here, whereas it's a little bit hazy here. There's a little bit lighter, brighter down the side here, and on her face we can see a bit more. We can see a little more definition in her arms here. You may not see some of this on your screens. It only really sort of comes out when we have stuff printed or it goes up on a billboard, you know, along those lines. So we are getting on to an image here. Now, does this really need a great deal of editing? The only thing I would do is crop. And if I can go and find let's take the contrast down, clear view, and we've got exposure compensation, which again, I do like bright images. So we'll do this, and we'll just take the noise reduction off, and there, and I'm going to go to crop, and I'm going to put it onto unconstrained, get my crop tool, and just pull that down. Sorry, Tara, just missed a little bit of your head there. I just got a little bit of your head. Pull this in. You'll need shots like this with a little bleed here at the side for magazines. This was for a magazine, and they did text all down the side here for us. So, you know, they wrote whatever they wanted to write on there. It was promotion for Tara, I think, on there. So I've got one more really to sort of go and have a look at, and we have this young lady who I have seen grow up from the age of about 4, Taylor, wonderful young lady. And again, you see these images, there's not, you know, I tend to do a lot in camera, so I try and get it right in camera. I use a light meter when I'm out on location. I use the color passport checker from X-Rite all the time when I'm out there because it's just in my back pocket. And if I have to take another picture of that during the day, I will. You know, light changes in the summer months. Light changes about every 15 minutes. Something happens with it. So the later you get in the day, the more the shadows are going to be there and so forth. But it really doesn't take long just to pop this up, ask the model to hold it, and go click, take a shot of the little passport system. What I would, this image, the way I worked with this image, all of these little black and white dots, everything in this coat, this coat on most monitors would cause a nightmare because, you know, and on TVs it would cause an absolute nightmare. But I'm going to go to a longer shot here. So what I've got with this shot of Taylor here is when I go into customize, on the contrast area, it took me a while to work this out, but I'm going to zoom in on her coat because that's really where I want it to start to work. Is this fine contrast and the micro contrast? What they tend to do is to really start to separate all the different colors, everything in these, and you can see it working on this. Okay, so when we come back out to a standard here, we'll do this. That is a lot brighter than that. You know, it's a lot denser here. Brighter is probably the wrong word. It's a lot more dense in here. You can see a lot more. The definition on the wood, everything. But it's a micro contrast, so it's not really affecting things like the face, the hands, the jeans on there. But, you know, I think you can, with software, you can tend to go overboard. We all know Photoshop will not make a bad picture good. It will make a very good picture better, but it won't make anything, you know, a bad image is a bad image, unfortunately. You know, I've shot my fair share of them. So if I wanted to go back to this image as well here, I just want to adjust some of that micro contrast just to pull that black and white out. There we go. I'm going to push the fine contrast as well. It's just pulling it up. So it's just giving me a little bit more definition in these blacks and the whites going across here. And then, do you know what? Sometimes I tend to just muck around with these sort of things down here. You know, you've got all these different things. So let's apply this and just see what happens, shall we? So we've got one called Cappuccino. Actually, that's quite nice. I quite like that. I might push the exposure up a touch, but that's called Cappuccino. I have to get used to that because I'm doing a couple of seminars in Italy in October. So I'm drinking a lot of cappuccino. No wine, unfortunately. And we can go to a cyanotype, which we know is going to be blue. We can go to darkroom. I have no idea what delta is, so let's just try delta. Oh, actually, that's more like a T-Max, Kodak T-Max film on there. I'm just going to check to see if we have some questions that have been, no picture, yes, all good, okay, everybody's sort of, wow. Lots and lots of questions coming in. I hope Olivier is answering those for me. Please, Olivier. We've just got a few minutes left on things, and I'm going to go and look at another organize pack here and see what else we've got. We had the okay, this was another one with another shot with Tara. Let's go into single mode and customize. You can see just what a beautiful girl she is. So what I would do, I think the contrast on this, I really need to sort of take the contrast down on this. I just want to make this slightly softer on here. Push, you know, most of my stuff is shot in camera with lighting and stuff. So if I, you know, go in here to go and see Tara, beautiful eyes. A lot of this I would remove in final post in Photoshop. Once I export them from here, I'll export a JPEG or a TIFF, and I'll take that into Photoshop, and I'll start working on the little bits of the skin here with the healing brush and so forth. By the way, the background that I'm using there is from Lesterlight. It's one of their out of focus backgrounds. I think it's called City Lights, something like that. I have the set of those, and they work amazingly well. You can just set them up behind people, and they work absolutely amazingly. I don't need to really do anything on this image apart from sort of brighten it up on there. One I did want to show, let me just check, I wanted to show, we've got one here. This is where I wanted to use the, here we go, the deformation, the volume deformation. If you watch this, we'll click on the volume. There we go. It just pulled the center up. Actually, when we did this, this is the current Miss United Kingdom, Shelby. I have to admit, Shelby, I'm really sorry, I've forgotten your surname. But we did a friend of mine and I, Mark Seymour, wonderful photographer. We did a workshop day for Nikon, and Shelby was there with the groom, with a model agency there. But again, I brought the images into Photoshop and into Lightroom on the day, and then I brought them into DxO, and nobody was looking at the Photoshop and Lightroom images. They were just simply looking at the DxO software. And instead of doing another hour's shoot, we ended up doing an hour's demonstration on DxO software because people were so excited about what they could see, you know, because we can push the contrast on this image just to give us a little bit more definition with the groom in the background. Does anybody take any notice of the groom at a wedding? I'm not sure they do. He's just there to make up the numbers, really, isn't he? Bless him, I wasn't mine, so And you know, there's not a lot we need to really do on that image. There's one here. The Nikon Day was sponsored. We had Ian Stewart. Oh, excuse me. We had Ian Stewart, the dress designer, world famous wedding dress designer, shops all over the world, and a wonderful man and a wonderful company. And we had the two girls. This is the black wedding dress and the white wedding dress. This was two Shelby and so forth on there with the models. But on this one, when we push the exposure on here, okay, it really starts to lift. If we go, look, there we go. We've really started to add some bits on here. We've added the noise reduction. We're not going to add a crop. We're going to take the crop off. We are going to, volume deformation is on there. If I take that off, there you go, it pushes the picture backwards. If I do that, it lifts them forward for us. And also on the smart lighting, so I've got slight. If I hit the strong, that's a bit too much. Let's go with medium. No, still too much. Let's stick to slight. And we'll just push the intensity up. I think, you know, up to about 25 is the light one, slight one, 50, and then sort of 80 for the strong. So if we get up to sort of this sort of area, you know, we'll go back into one view and zoom in on these lovely girls. And these dresses were just absolutely amazing. And that's the final result from that, really. What I didn't tell you is that I was standing here photographing this, and around my shoulders were probably about 10 other photographers, all taking shots over my shoulder. So I really don't know how I got together. What I'm going to do, just quickly, is I'm going to take off the reset. All right, so I've reset it here. So how did I get to that one, first of all? Well, what I did was I used the white balance setting here, and I just clicked on the white balance dropper button. I went down to white, the nearest thing I got to white here, and just clicked on that, and it gave me a little bit, probably a little bit too much orange in there. So I started to sort of click around in here, keeping the orange there, turn that off, and then start to pull up the exposure compensation. And that's how we got to that image before. So you've got your little sort of white balance custom setting here. I think we're coming up to the end of this. I don't know if there's any questions that anybody wants me to answer, and if there's any questions or anything anybody would like me to do on there.
Yes, Mark, can you hear me?
I can hear you.
So thank you very much first for this marvelous demonstration. We had a couple of questions at the very beginning of the webinar regarding your using some flashes or not when you shoot weddings.
Okay.
So would you please tell us a little bit more about flashes?
Okay, no problem whatsoever. I told you I've just been made the ambassador for Cactus. Cactus-image. Cactus are a speedlight manufacturer that are totally camera independent. So that was the bit that excited me. They make a little trigger. So on the trigger, you can select Canon, Nikon, Pentax, Sony, Fuji, Olympus, all the different and it's got all the profiles of those speed lights built in. So if you wanted to buy one Cactus speedlight, which has a transceiver and so it's a transceiver, so it's got a receiver and a transmitter built in. You could have that on the stand. You could have your Nikon flash over here, and providing you have a transmitter on the camera and on the Nikon flash, it will also fire, because of the 4 different groups, the Cactus flash. So I have 5 of these Cactus setups, and they're absolutely amazing. I don't know who distributes them in whichever countries everybody's listening to. Over here, there are many distributors. But if you just type in Cactus-image on the web, you will find out all about them. If I've got a bigger job, then I use Elinchrom lighting. I use the new Quadra, the new ELB system, and I use their bigger studio lights. Everything I've got is Elinchrom, and trust me, there's a garage full of Elinchrom lighting, much to my wife's disappointment and my bank managers. But I do use lighting at weddings just to pop in a little bit of fill flash sometimes. If it's bright, I'll use the hypersync, on the Nikon camera, set it to SP mode, and I can shoot some open apertures using fill-in flash. That works really well. I don't really know what else there is to say about the flash heads, really. As I said, you can email me at mark@marklawrencetraining.co.uk or info@marklawrencephotography.co.uk, and I will be more than happy to answer any questions on different things. Using the color checker passport with the software. Okay, all right. If we've got time, I can do that. I can show you how to do that really quickly. That'll be Lightroom. I'll just pop up Lightroom quickly. Olivier, please come on and tell me if I'm going over time, or if people are getting bored, or if they've gone to the local bar or something. What I'm going to do here is we're going to go to let's just get rid of this on here. Going to go to library. Down here, I've got this sort of DxO webinar kit down here, and I've got a color passport checker. So what I've done, I've already cropped this. You would bring it into your software, into Lightroom, grab hold of it from in here, crop it. It's got the 4 little crop marks on there, so you can crop the whole thing. And then from here, what you would say on here, plugin manager. Go to your plugin manager. Okay, and where have we gone? No, that's not. Export, sorry, plugin, export. So we go to the color checker passport. We'd call it webinar color on there, and say export. So that's going to export it. What we have to do now, unfortunately, it's going to come up and tell me it's just processing the profile up here. What we actually have to do is to shut Lightroom down and bring Lightroom back up again. The reason for that is that Lightroom doesn't see any of the profiles until you reboot the system. So if we just quit Lightroom, skip that. Fortunately, as I said, the computer's fast, so it just boots back up again. My last computer wasn't as fast as this. So if I go to some pictures down here, if I go to a picture down here and go to my panel, going to develop over here. Yeah, I'm on develop. Go all the way down to the bottom here. Camera calibration, that would usually be like that, of course. I'm just going to open up camera calibration, and we'll leave that on there. Adobe standard, and we have got webinar color down the bottom here. So that would then be my, so I can say, let me say for argument's sake, select 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 images, and put, Adobe standard, sorry. It's not going to let me do that on those. So, and apply the webinar color to this one. Okay, it just changed. It changed in color. So these must already have profiles attached. So that's how you would do it. So you would select all your images. So as I said at the beginning, if you're doing at the bride's house or in the studio is obviously a lot easier. The only time you need to reshoot is if you change all the lighting. So if you're keeping the lighting the same and shooting 3 or 4 different models for different projects, then you can keep the same profile setting on there. And once you've done it, so with the bride getting ready, you just select that batch and apply the profile to those. Select the next batch in the church, apply the profile to those. It really does make a world of difference to what you're doing. I hope that's helped. I've just seen a question. He's good. Please tell him, even though I'm sure he knows, since photographers do ask him to immortalize their wedding. Yeah. Yeah. Sound has gone okay. Very nice pastel colors. Thank you. Where can I find DxO? Is it expensive? It's not expensive. It will save you a great deal. So, Olivier, are you there?
Yes, I am. Can you hear me?
All right. Okay. I've answered a few questions on there and gone in and done some other things, which has been really enjoyable.
Excellent.
Some really great. Right. Okay. If I crop too hard and need a higher resolution than I have in the image, I'm not sure that was from Peter, but crisper black and whites. Right. Okay. Can I blow up the resolution on your screen or on the image? You can't change the resolution on the image, unfortunately. But I think we're pretty much there. There's still 86 people online. Thank you so much. It's usually down to 6. But as I said before, please email me at mark@marklawrencetraining.co.uk, Twitter at MTL Photography, and info@marklawrencephotography.co.uk. I've had a fantastic time talking about this. I don't stop talking about DxO anyway. I tell all my friends about it, and you know, especially the Optics 10, the new one. So I think I'm probably there, Olivier.
Yep. Thank you very much again, Mark, for all your time and your really marvelous pictures. I think we will put an end to
Call
this.
it a day. But
yes.
I'd just like to say thank you to everybody for attending. I love doing these things. So, you know, if you want to get in touch with DxO, if you want to see something specific, if you think I've done a good job, tell them. If you don't think I've done a good job, just email me. Tell me. But I'd love to see you all again. Many thanks.